we'll start our third lecture, which is on smart weed management in cereal-based cropping system. And our speaker is Dr. P.K. Mukherjee, sir. Sir is principal scientist at ICAR-Directorate of Weed Research, Jabalpur. So, sir did masters from Vidhan Chandra Krishi Vishwavidyalaya and PhD from ICAR-IRI in 2002. And he joined as regional scientist at International Potato Center for Southeast Asia for the countries like Nepal, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. And after serving for 2 years, Dr. Mukherjee joined as an assistant professor at UBKV, and later he was promoted to associate professor. After that, he joined IVRI as senior scientist in 2014. Dr. Mukherjee taught several courses at undergraduate, postgraduate, and PhD level at UBKV, IVRI, and also guided several MSc and PhD students for their dissertation. His research has been published in over 60 journal articles, book chapters, or proceeding articles. He received Dr. S.S. Baines Memorial Award, Young Scientist Award, and Fellow of Crop and Weed Science, Outstanding Achievement Award. At present, as I told, he is working as principal scientist at DWR, and he is conducting research on weed competitiveness of rice cultivars, breeding lines, and weed biology under rice wheat cropping system. So with this brief introduction, I invite Dr. P.K. Mukherjee, sir, for his lecture on smart weed management in cereal-based cropping system.
Thank you, Dr. Yogita. My voice is audible?
Yes, sir. Yes,
okay.
sir.
Okay. I am sharing my slides. Okay. So many speakers has discussed almost all the aspect of the weed science. So as you have mentioned that 170 students are there and remaining participants are the scientists. So I'll be discussing about the matter which has not been touched upon. Otherwise, it will be the repetitions of the same things which has been taught or which has been delivered by the previous speaker. Now, I'm starting with the most important things, that is the weed science, which specifically focus on the weed biology and ecology, is crucial for the development of sustainable weed management strategies. This is very important because weed biology and ecology, and finally, that is weed dynamics. If we could understand the three things which is happening into the crops as well as into the cropping systems, then it will become easy for us to devise the long-term weed management strategies. Now, what is weed biology? We all know that biology means germination, emergence, establishment, growth, reproduction, life cycles of the weeds. And ecology is the study, the relationship between all these things. In addition to that adaptation and distributions of the weeds and its environment. That is the most important thing. So what is the relationship between the environment and the germination, emergence, establishment, growth, reproductions of the weeds? In addition that is the adaptation and distributions of the weeds. Now, weed seeds specifically normally germinate in flushes and phases. Because if it could have been germinated in single point of time, then it is very much easy for us to control the weeds, but it is not going to do that much. So these kind of flushes and the germination which is taking place in flushes and phases is known as the periodicity of the germination. It is highly discontinuous and staggered. In my Remaining slides, it will be explained. And internally controlled. Seeds lying in the surface or very close to the surface usually have the less dormancy and the germinate spontaneously under the favorable condition. So whatever seeds that is lying on the surface and within the 2 to 3 centimeter depth of the soils, they usually germinate immediately. Whereas seed at the subsoils or the deeper layer of the soil do not germinate spontaneously, rather remain dormant. If germinated, their plumule may die up inside the soils before reaching the surface soils. That is the seed ecology. How the bural depth is specifically influencing the germination and the emergence of the weeds is very, very important in determining the weed dynamics into the crops and into the cropping system. The plumules are not long enough to come out in the soil. Moreover, the food reserve of the seed is small, which may be exhausted before the plumules and reach to the surface. That means which is small seeded, if they are placed deep inside the soil, they are not going to germinate. Because the plumules, before reaching it, every food reserve will be exhausted. The seeds therefore require intervention by the humans or the environment, because man is specifically responsible for altering the environment. How it is happening, I will be explaining that one, and how it is affecting the weed dynamics. Now we all know the soil is the reservoir of the seeds, means it is accumulating, means seeds are getting accumulated and deposited inside the soil, and withdrawal of the seeds are also happening inside the soils also. Means seed predations, then germination, emergence of the germination of the seeds, emergence of the seedlings. That way, it is the withdrawal of the seeds is taking place. Accumulation of the seeds occurs by the seed rains. Means seeds are falling on the ground just like raindrops. It is known. That's why it is known as the seed rain. There will be the two way the seed rains is taking place: ex situ seed rains and the in situ seed rains. And this is the most important one. If you curtail the seed rains, then automatically the seed bank will be exhausted automatically, because that will be withdrawal of the seed will be taking place rather than the accumulation and the decomposition. If any existing weed is permitted to mature, a substantial amount of the seed will continue to enter into the soils and become a source of future interest. Because the weeds are producing the seed, numerous amount of the seeds, and because of this, when it is reaching to the maturity stage, it is contributing the huge number of the seed into the seed bank. Withdrawal of the seeds occurred by predatory that I have already mentioned. Weed seed rain. Weed seed rain is the new weed seeds which are periodically added to the existing seed population in soil by weeds growing in situ, wind, water, human, animals, and miscellaneous dispersing agent. You know, in situ means when the weeds is reaching to the maturity, it is contributing the seeds. And there is a autocory and allocory. Means weeds, seeds is specifically developing some kind of the structure or mechanism so that it can disperse by the wind. That is the autocory, and allocory means that it is getting dispersed by the humans, animals, water, human and animals, and the birds also. The weed seed, and there is another most important one, the endojucory. I'll be explaining that one. What is endojucory and how it is going, means very much important into the seed dispersal. Weed seed banks or the seed pool, these are the existing viable seed population of the different species of the weeds in a given soil is called the weed seed bank or the seed pools. The weed seed bank consists of the surface germinating, that is, it is the up to 2.5 centimeter depth of the soil, shallow germinating 2.5 to 5, and deep germinating the wheat seeds. More in seeds, as I am mentioning, that surface and very near to the surface, that which is the seeds which is residing surface or very near to the surface can germinate immediately and without facing any hurdles. Now, I'm just gearing up Now, the weed ecology specifically, as I told you, the weed ecology, the relationship between the weeds and the environment, it specifically deals with the persistence of the weeds. Means we are always controlling the weeds, but every time we are seeing it is really invading after it is removing from the agro ecosystems or from the different cropping systems. So this is the persistent nature of the weeds. And these weed ecology specifically the measure the persistent nature as well as the plasticity. Now the new terms has come, not new terms, because of the climate change, you can say that the plasticity is weeds of the is taking place. That means the expansion of the seasonality of the weeds, which was not occurring into the new environment and the new seasons, they are started to occur in that particular environment and that particular season. As for example, the Echinoclona, it never appeared into the winter seasons, but it has started to appear into the winter season. Dinapra retroflexus never appeared into the winter season earlier, but now it has started to appear into the winter season. That is because of the plasticity and expansion of the seasonality. Now, what is the agricultural system? We all know that that agriculture integrations of the agricultural crops and the living organism, non-living factors, and most important things that environment is specifically modified to the adoption of the management practices for a defined segment of the space and the time. That is most important. That environments is altered through the adoption of the management practices, and that is specifically causing the problem of the weeds and the weed dynamics. Why I'm repeating that particular one, weed dynamics, because it is the most important. If you understand the weed dynamics, if you measure the weed dynamics, then your problem will be solved. Now, I'm coming that man plays an important role in changing the environment. Definitely, we are adopting the different type of management practices in terms of the tillage systems, fertilizer management, irrigation management, and all these component of the management practices specifically playing an important role. And weed management specifically, herbicide, manual and physical health. They are means influencing the weed dynamics in terms of the weed floraship, in terms of the change in the floristic compositions of the plant species. This is happening. And the growings of the crops in the cropping system is kind of crops and the kind of cropping system, crop rotation, whether it is a cereal legume, cereal oil seed, and that is specifically related with the means emergence of the crop associated wheat and the crop bound wheat. Already, our honorable director has already explained about the crop bound wheat, that is means parasitic wheat. He has explained in details about that one. Now, this is the one of the meat that is 1 year series is equivalent to the 7 years video. That is it's true. Because how it becomes true? Because that whenever the weeds are the prolific seed producer, so it is contributing the seeds into the soil, and there is some other agent that is also contributing the seeds into the soil, that is ex situ rain, in situ rain, seed rains. And the seeds is specifically when it is entering into the soil, it is undergoing the several kind of the dormancy. You know, all the students, that what is enforced dormancy. When it is placed deep inside the soil, it is undergoing the dormancy. When it is brought back again through the tillage, then it is exposed to the favorable conditions and it is germinated. This tillage, this cycle is specifically breaking the enforced dormancy. Innate dormancy, the genetical characters, because there is a hard seed coat, and because of that particular reasons, it is undergoing the dormancy. And induced dormancy, when the deep seeds are placed deep inside the soil, there is a low partial pressure of the oxygens and the high partial pressure of the carbon dioxide. That's why it is also undergoing the dormancy. Dormancy means it is specifically determining the persistence nature of the weeds. Means you have controlled the weeds today, and after some time, you'll be seeing that again these weeds is coming up. That is the persistent nature of the weeds, and they are dictating the weed dynamics into the crops as well as into the crop system. The immediate viability of the seeds is 2 to 78%. That is the one of the. That's why it is very good. persistence in nature. Now it is a prolific seed producer. You know that it can grow 40 to 50,000. Even that it can produce a 1 lakh seeds per plant. Then Chiropodia 11, 30,000 to 1 lakh 76,000. So these are numerous seed producer, the weights. Now I am talking about the individual dissemination because why I am highlighting it, it is a very important seed dissemination, with seed dissemination mechanism, because there are several weeds. The seeds can easily pass through the rumen of the animals and can come to the dung. If you apply the dung, even we have seen that well decomposed dung is also containing the viable seeds. Then if you'll apply them into the soils, then what is going to happen? These seeds means you are going to introduce the seeds into this particular soils. Therefore, it is very much essential. If you are undecomposed, then definitely there will be the huge contribution of the seeds, which is going through the endogeophory dissemination mechanisms. And if you decomposed FYM, then only you shall have to go for the stale seedbed technique, because whatever existing the seeds, viable seeds is there, that could be killed with this particular technology, which has been explained by the previous speakers. And now, not only done, because the cattle set water, when it is specifically used for the irrigation purpose, there is a huge infestation of the weeds. This is the examples of the rumex, because it can pass through the animals, rumen of the animals, can come to the dung, and water set water, when it is specifically used for the irrigation, it will be entering into this particular the field and causing the huge infestations of that particular one. You can see that things. Then we have engaged the manual laborer, and there's a large number of the weeds, rumex dentatus. Now this is the one of the things. Now in the right side, you can see that when the normal irrigation water has been applied, and the left side when the cattle set water was applied. In Carfentrazone, when it was applied, after there is a huge spike of this particular rumex, because of the ones we are giving the irrigations, the cattle set water, then rumex seeds was entering into the field, and there is emergence. But in the normal, when we have used the normal water, after the applications of the Carfentrazone, it is it killed the weeds, it controlled the weeds perfectly, and there is a almost the wheat which was raised without this rumex. Means rumex infestation was very, very low. Now this is the seed bank dynamics, because this is the most important thing. So now the seed drains, I told you that the in situ seed drains, that means the weeds which is reaching into the flowering stage, seed production and contributing on the seeds. And there is ex situ seed drains, that means the wind, water, or the dispersing agent, they are contributing that. If you curtail the seed drains, then automatically your problem will be solved. Because the majority of the things, whatever problems we are facing, that is mainly due to these particular seed drains. And how best, what the management practices you are going to adopt just to curtail these particular seed drains will determine your future weed flora and future weed dynamics, forestry compositions of those weed species into the crops and the cropping systems. So this is the weed dynamics dynamics of the seed pool or the seed bank in soils. Now, as we have already explained that one, that the seed ecology, now viral depth has the influence on the seed germinations. If you see the Echinoclea colonna, you can study that particular one. Then there is means exponential rate of increase into the emergence of the Echinoclea colonna when the seeds are present on the surface of the soils. But one beyond means the 0 centimeter depth means surface soils, 1, 2, 3 centimeter, there will be the staggered means emergence of that one, and emergence percentage is lowering down once there is a broader depth is increasing. Now it has the influence. because you know that the echinophloa, it is after emergence, means it is within 34 days after sowing, it is specifically means producing this inflorescence, and within 48 days after sowing, it is producing, it is means contributing the seeds. Means when the rice is reaching into the active tillering stage, that time Echinoploa colonna, if it has appeared simultaneously with the germinations of the rice, or before the germinations of the rice, it is contributing the seeds. Now these the seedlings which is emerging at the greater depth of the soils, that means 8 and 9 centimeter. Up to 9 centimeter, we have observed the emergence of the Echinoploa colonna. There is with a considerable delay into the productions of these particular inflorescence and the falling of the seeds. That means the Echinoploa colonna which is emerging at the latter stage is retaining the seeds at the harvest and contributing the seeds into the soils. Even though you have controlled the Echinoploa colonna perfectly, but the Echinoploa colonna, which is coming from the 8 centimeter, 9 centimeter depth of the soils, it is coming late into the crops and retain the weeds, seeds during the harvest and contributing it into the soils. Now, there are some seeds which is specifically very tiny in nature, small seed, up to 4 centimeter depth. Beyond 4 centimeter depth, it is not emerging. One of the most obnoxious weeds, that is Alternanthera paranocoides. It is the very obnoxious in our DWR farms in some other parts of the country. It is a broadleaf weeds. It is propagated by the seeds as well as by the plant parts. And if you see that one up to 4 centimeter depth of the soils, it is emerging, and beyond that one. That means it is another things is that if you place the seed beyond 4 centimeter depth of the soils, it is not going to germinate. And if you are not going to disturb it, it will remain inside the soils and not will be germinating. Now it's has, because the fragmented plants, that is the one of the most important. If you go for any kind of tillage operation, that will be cutting the existing the Alternanthera into the species, and that species has the capacity to put for the new growth. And if you see that one, that these sides, and the front side will be the plant first, and the back side is the seed. If you see that from the surface, there is a huge emergence of the seed, and if you see that there is a surface, the plant first, no emergence, but gradually it is increasing. 3 centimeter, there is a more emergence that from the plant first, 4 centimeter little, and the 5 and 6 centimeter there. That means if you species into the plant parts, if it's placed deep inside the soils, then it will be losing its capacity to put for the new growth. Now there is a seed senescence. There are some seeds which is losing its viability with the progress of the time, Alternanthera paranocoides. But I have seen that one Echinoploa colonna, it is maintaining its viability for the longer period of the times. So that senescence phase of this particular seed is very less in case of the Echinoploa colonna, but it is very high in case of the Alternanthera paranocoides. So now there is another the weeds, that is the Medicago polymorpha. You know that is this is the seed of the Medicago polymorpha. So there is a variations of the seeds like that particular one. And in this particular soils, both the seeds and the fruits, those are present in this particular soils, and they are having the different emergence patterns of the seedlings. In case of the seeds, it is up to 6 centimeter, and in case of the fruits, up to 9 centimeter. And if you see in case of the seeds, there is a very staggered emergence, and in case of the fruits, there is a almost smooth emergence of these from the different soils. This altogether is making the things very complex, the seed as well as the fruits. So that is making the things very complex in terms of the control of the weeds. And this is the things, if you all means here is like that one, if you turn the soils, means if the seeds which is placed on the surface of the soils, some emergence will be taking place. But again, if you will be disturbing the soils, then seeds which is lying on the surface of the soil, again they will start to emerge. Then again it will disturb the soil, again they will start to emerge. So even though at a particular day, if the seeds are present, there is not all the seeds is not going to germinate in the single point of time. With the disturbance of the soils, then again it will be gradually germinating. That is the characters of the weeds. Now the Echinoclea colonna that I told you that within 48 days it has started to contribute the green seeds, and it has the character that green seed can also germinate and emerges. Only thing is that it will be taking the long times because it is falling on the surface and taking 13 to 14 days to start emergence. But in case of the mature seed, it is taking 1 to 2 days. 1 day to start the emergence and reaching into the 90%. Here it is 37%. And what is the importance of that particular one? Because it is specifically dictating the persistent nature of this particular weeds. You need to understand all these things, and there is expansion of the seasonality. And this is the dormancy of that particular one. We have seen that we are maintaining that once the tray, and here we have seen that it has started to germinate after 682 days. Means up to that it remains dormant. The seeds which is placed 10 centimeter depth of the soil, it never germinated. But the moment we have turned these things, gradually it is germinating. And after 682 days, we have recorded its germination. Now, designing sustainable weed control techniques, which is most important, that weed biology. I have just given the little bit of insight of what is the weed biology, seed ecology, then phenology of the weeds, genetic diversity, which is most important, that one. That is basically leading to the resistant problems. Seed ecology, that is the most important thing, that whatever I have explained, how the bural depth is specifically influencing the germinations and the emergence. That weed emergence model, that is most important things. Weed phenology, that means when it is producing the inflorescence, when it is dropping the seeds. So that is seed production capacity of the weeds. That is one of them. Plasticity of the weeds and expansion of the segmenting. Nowadays, it is very, very important. But wheat was restricted to the particular season, like Echinoclea. It's never appearing to the wheat, but it is gradually appearing, but not in that particular extent that it is causing the damage. But it has started to appear into the winter season. Dynebra retroflexa also. Seed bank persistent, definitely it is also most important. Weed seed retention and the crop harvest. So that is most important. Now, means once it is dropping the seed into the after the harvest, that means it is contributing the significant number of the seeds into this particular soil, herbicide resistant population. All these things that now cropping system and the weed ecology. Cropping system, we specifically understand about the crop choice, rotation, management practices. That is the two most important things, the crop rotation and the crop diversification. Even though these are synonymous, but if you consider into the weed science and weed management, they are different. Crop rotation means growing the crops in sequence on the same piece of land and in a calendar years. But the crop diversification means, suppose you are adapting the rice wheat cropping system. In these particular cases, some of that is Phalaris viners, or maybe the some of the weeds specifically is very much aggressive. Then you turn the wheat field into some other crops, like is gram and pre. Automatically it will be controlled because there will be some reason like that one. That is a crop diversification. Another one is that in our DWR experimental field, we have seen that one, the rice wheat cropping systems and the maize chickpea cropping system. In the rice wheat cropping system, what is happening, there is some of the weeds which is specifically coming into the rice cannot be controlled because Dr. Choudhary has done this particular experiment. He has applied the herbicide, and choice of the herbicide is very limited. Okay, to control that particular weeds. Now, when the altered, means when the maize was replaced by the rice and rice was replaced by the maize, then option was open to apply this particular herbicide. Then herbicide was available, which was selective and controlling the weeds, which was very much aggressive into the rice. Then the the shifting of the field from rice to maize or maize to rice is basically making these things very easy. That is the, we can say, the crop diversification or the diversifications of the field. And it is directly influencing the floristic composition and abundance of the wheat species. And finally, it is dictating the wheat dynamics. That is most important, the wheat dynamics. And we need to have an ecological understanding. That is a deep understanding of the biological and ecological behaviors of the wheats, along with their interactions. Sorry. Within a Pacific cropping system is essential for understanding the wheat dynamics and diversing effective long-term wheat management solutions. Now we do have this particular understanding at the ecological niche. We are, our previous speaker, Dr. Choudhary, was telling that the rice wheat cropping system is specifically favoring this, the polaris minors. That is specifically, it is creating the ecological needs of that particular wheats. Means it's timing up the emergence, is the nutrient, is fertilizer applications, all it's favoring, which is we are adopting into the particular wheat, and that is favoring this particular crop, particular wheat, that is the polaris minors. That is the ecological niche of the wheats. So if you break that particular systems, means rice to gram, rice to tea, then automatically ecological needs of that particular wheats will be altered. Then polaris minors will not be that much aggressive or will not be that much prevalent into that particular systems. Now, any change in the approach into the stand establishment, that is the conventional tillage or intensive tillage to conventional tillage and zero tillage, can have profound diversity associated with communities and their concomitant impact on the crop. Zero tillage encourages infestation of the perennial weeds due to undisturbed roots, because always time zero tillage, what is happening, because the soils are not disturbed, so there is always time possibility that some perennial weeds will be appearing, which is very much difficult to control also. An abundance of the small-seeded annual weeds as seeds remains on the soil surface. The continuous adoption of the zero tillage leads to increase the density and biomass of the both annual and perennial weeds because of the presence of the weed propagules in the seed banks and contributed from the previous seasons. In zero tillage, crop residue retention, basically crop residue retention is basically minimizing the weed infestations by reducing the germinations and conserving the soils also. But however, there are some of the weeds, that is the kind of crop raspberry cypress areas, it can under zero tillage and minimum tillage with the crop residues are maintained. And all these times that Dr. Choudhary has already mentioned that one, because we are maintaining the residues, the efficacy of the pre-emergent herbicide will be less and the recommended dose, then you need to increase the dose of this particular one. And if you see that in a particular locations, there will be the 4 to 5 major weeds. And you need to study the 4 to 5 major weeds, its biology, its ecology, and finally its weed dynamics into the crops and the cropping system. Now, as I told, the crop diversifications means polaris minors can easily control when the land will be shifted to the pea and gram. Then Avenophagia also when can be eliminated. This can be eliminated from the wheat field by using the pea and gram as the break crops. And then seeds and urban, there is a lot of the examples is there when you are shifting the land from one crop to the another crop. That is, it is means minimizing the ecological niche of that particular weeds, which was very much aggressive and prevalent, and automatically it is controlled. Now, this is one that my previous speaker was telling that you will see this particular weeds, Alternanthera perennifolia. It is frosted, means it is crawling the field and producing the huge biomass. So its actual nature is a frosted habit, means it is crawling into the fields. But when it is entering, means appearing into the crops, specifically into the rice, specifically into the wheat, and all the crops, it is coming. So medium stature crops, it has become very aggressive because it is developing the branches and suppressing the growth. You can say the medium stature crop IR64 DRT1, it is very aggressive. But when we have grown this long stretched crops, that is a variety, that is a purna, rice. Because within this particular purna, you are seeing that alternanthera was there, but it is very lanky in growth and it does not compete with this particular purna because of the height. So that is one of the most important examples of how the height is specifically influencing the nature of the weeds, which is phenotypic appearance, and how it is controlling that particular weed. So it is the weedy in nature, and you can say that the alternanthera is automatically controlled because of this yield, because of its competitive ability. But in case of the IR64 DRT1, you can say that the entire the plot means suppressed, means the rice plant got suppressed due to the aggressive growth of this the alternanthera. But it could not take up that kind of height with the purna because it is more than 1.3 meters high purna has attained at this particular stage. Now, characteristics of the wheat competitive rice cultivars, that is the early uniform emergence, early vegetative vigors, and the high biomass production capacity, early maturity, droopy leaves, tall stature, high tiller production capacity. As Dr. Dubey was telling that Sornosrea, it is one of the another most important wheat competitive varieties, along with the purna, and there are some other also, that is DRR47, then Ovisek, then IR64 DRT1. But IR64 DRT1, Sornosrea, they are not that much effective into the only high weed pressure, means when we are maintaining the weedy plots. Whereas purna is specifically suppressing that one. But when there is the intervention, but when we are just applying only the early post-emergence herbicide, single applications of the herbicide, and their competitive nature can control the weeds. But if you maintain the weedy plots, and because of the high, the aggressive growth of the weeds, these in the high weed pressure, only purna is surviving very well. But when the indications of the one single applications, others are performing very, very well and suppressing the growth of the weeds. Now, this is the one of the example, that is rice pea cropping systems. Now, you can say that in case of the pea, Medicago, huge infestation of the Medicago. And the farmers has applied the metribuzin, and you know the metribuzin is very much phytotoxic into the pea because it does not have the level claims. Because what we are doing is we are applying the herbicide into the field, into the crops, which does not have the level claim. And any alterations of the factors, means soil factors or moisture, it will become phytotoxic in nature. But there is no other herbicide which could control these Medicago polymorpha into the pea, because no post-emergence herbicide was available. Now, what has happened? This rice pea cropping system was converted to the rice wheat cropping system. Now, the wheat, that is prodenopha plus MSM, metsulfuron methyls. This is very much effective to control this particular Medicago pollen. Even the MSM itself is very much effective to control this Medicago pollen. That means your option will be opened when you are changing or shifting the field from the existing crops to the other crops, just to control the weeds which does not have the option. So that is one of the most important one. So now there is some things which I would like to mention. We are always time applying the herbicide, but herbicide which does not have the label claims of this particular weeds, that weed become aggressive. Now here, that is one of the most promising herbicide, that is salifovir plus penoxazole, which is specifically popularly known as a Vivaya. It can control the Leptopla chinesis and the Echinopla trasgally, other grasses, and as well as the broadleaf weeds. But it does not have the label claims of the Ludigia. Now you can see once we have applied this particular herbicide, it controls the other. But the Ludi, it could not control the Ludigia. The Ludigia, which was suppressed by the other weeds, like this Alternanthera paranocoides, it flourished well and caused the huge damage, almost crop failure, because of this particular the crops, because of this particular herbicide. Anyhow, there is another thing is that pre-emergence herbicide like combinations of the pendimethalin plus followed by bispyruvate sodium plus MSM, that is also causing the shifting of the first year. If you see in the direct seeded rice, first year there is a very good wheat harvest, but second year onwards it will giving you the challenges because all this kind of shifting is taking place, and you need to devise the wheat management practices in such way so that you can monitor the wheat dynamics, and based on that particular one, you can devise your management practices. So this is the one of the things that Madras patents is, which was shifted. It was not controlled by the several herbicide, even the Novelect, the fluorophylloxybin, benzoyl plus of beta, it was not controlled. But when this was rotated with these green grams, and we have applied the imazathapire, means socket, that is a propofol plus imazathapire, it was controlled, and the next rise, this was vanished, means it didn't contribute the seeds into this seed bank. That's why it was controlled. So once you are rotating it into the sum of the crops and the herbicide is available, then the wheat shift which is taking place because of the herbicide application, wheat automatically controlled. This is this particular one, right side, it is the general, the weeds which is appearing into the weedy check plot, and this is the shifted one. Now, smart weed management, that is Dr. Muthu has already explained that particular one. I just summarize these particular things like this way. That means it is the site-specific weed management. How the AI power-based weed identifications. Then you shall have to train your drones. Means then there will be the developing of the weed hotspot map. Then you'll be trained your drone to apply the herbicide at that particular site where the weeds has appeared. And depending upon the different the weed hotspot maps, you will be selecting the herbicide which to control the diverse weed product. So that is the very site smart weed management. This is the camera and sensor which is attached with the drones is specifically taking the photographs of the weeds. Now, another thing is that you shall have to develop the large number of the image of the weeds into the different stages, so that these the deep learning and machine learning can easily identify the weeds. So large number of the weed data need to be generated of that particular one. Then real-time processing is that particular one. You will be developing that particular model as well as the maps, so that the drones can apply this particular herbicide into that particular site. This is the site-specific weed management practices, the smart weed management. Then the drones are very much effective in the mapping of the weed hotspots across the large field and targeted spotted field. It has several benefits. You know that one, reduce the chemical use, definitely. As it is a site-specific weed management, that means it is delivering the herbicide into that particular point where weed has appeared. The combat herbicide resistance means it is specifically preventing the indiscriminate use of the herbicide. Higher crop yield, definitely weeds are getting controlled effectively, and the environmental sustainability. As we are reducing the load of the herbicide into the particular ecosystem, that means it is always environmental sustainable. But there is a challenge. There's a cost. Means today if you think about that particular one, tomorrow onwards you won't be able to develop this, take up this particular technologies, the smart weed management technology. But in this AI-based, AI power-based weed identifications, then machine learning and real-time processing. But smart weed management, whatever we have explained earlier, that is also a smart weed management. But in this specific technology, it requires the use cost and then technological complexity. Definitely, it requires a skilled, means technical knowledge for operation, data interpretation, and the maintenance. And the connectivity, definitely 5G and 6G connectivity is required to support this particular technologies. and data and training. Large number of data is required for the image is specifically required to identify that weeds through the machine learning and then the real-time processing. Now, I was talking about the weed dynamics, which is the most important aspect of this, the weed science. That is weed dynamics. If you can understand the weed dynamics, then your 90% job will be over. It refers to the change in the floristic composition, density, growth, competitive ability of the weed species over the times. If you are starting into the crops at the different developmental stages of the crops. Now, what is the floristic composition? Its density, growth, and competitive ability. Now, it is specifically changed with these, the floristic compositions is specifically changed due to the tillage, crop rotation, row spacing, fertilizer, mechanical weed management, herbicide use, and condition. And what is the floristic composition? That is the species diversity. As we know that one at the different phase of the developmental stages of the crops, we will be finding the weeds, the species diversity, species abundance, and the distributions of the weeds. Now, if you measure these particular floristic compositions, then phytosociological studies is very much essential. You know, all the students will know that what is the importance of the phytosociological study. This is the scientific analysis of the plant communities to understand their composition, structure, relationship with the environment and our species. What is the parameters? That is absolute frequency, relative frequency, absolute density, relative density, abundance, dominance, important value index. Now, if you're in your farms, if you go for the phytological study, you have GPS-based data generations. Now, in my next slide, it will be explained. Suppose this is your farm. In every farms, you are adapting the different kind of the cropping systems. In every plot, maybe there is a similar kind of cropping system, or maybe in some the plots there is a different kind of cropping system. And the different phases, if you, with the help of the quadrate, if you go for the phytosociological studies, then with the help of the GIS and GPS, you can develop this particular model. You can develop the maps of the weed spot maps in your farm, rather than to use your and all these particular thing, drones, and because it is a costly one. If it is available, then it is okay. You can go for that one. But you can start these things, developing weed maps in your farms with this particular phytosociological study with the help of the quadrate. And another importance is that one, when you will be entering into the field, you will be observing the several things. So what kind of continuous vigilance is very much required to monitor these particular weeds and weed dynamics. So that is the physical verification is very, very essential in this for developing these particular maps. So you can start with this way, and gradually you can shift it into the smart weed management, even though it is also a smart weed management practices in the weed cropping. Selectivity, you know that one, all the people have studied it. Once we are applying the herbicide, no herbicide is selective in nature on the cellular levels of the plants. You know that one. No herbicide is selective in nature because of this manipulating all these kind of factors. We are basically activating the selectivity property into the crops. Now, this is the one of the things here. You have seen that one, the high moisture. Atrazine is very much selective into the maize. But when it is applied in the high moisture situation, or after application, if there is rain, there is a severe phytotoxicity, and that could lead to the complete crop failure. So you need to understand all these particular factors. This is the one of the examples I have given to you, that atrazine, which is highly selective, cause the phytotoxicity if there is alterations of the moisture levels. Even into this highly selective crops, that is the maize, for which it is specifically recommended. Now, weed management is main. I have been just coming, you know, all the speakers and my previous speakers have already explained about that particular organic farming. What are the cultural practices we can adopt? That maize plus coffee intercropping system already has been explained. 2:2 proportion, it can suppress the growth of the weeds. But here you shall have to remember the herbicide option is very less. because it will apply the atrazine into the pre-emergence. Your coffee is not going to germinate because atrazine is very much toxic to the legumes. Any legumes, if atrazine will be entering into the legume fields, then it will be causing the huge level of phytotoxicity into this particular. So your herbicide option will be less, but your cultural option will be there. So that way, these are the several doses of the herbicide that is basically used into the maize particular crops. This is the some of the herbicide which is specifically ready mix is the current herbicide atrazine plus topramizone. That is a ready mix, but be careful about that one. In early post emergence, if there is a high moisture because atrazine is there, that it will be causing the phytotoxicity. So when there is a high moisture, it should go for only the topramizone rather than to this OD formulation ready mix. Then halosulfuron, atrazine plus mesotriones, that is also available in that particular one. Then one of these things, isoxaphlutols plus thiencarbazones, methyl. This is specifically the herbicide is specifically used to control Rhodberlia cochinensis. This is now this is a very emerging weeds and this is very obnoxious in some of the parts. That is in ISWS Center, the Bangalore. They have specifically worked on this particular aspect, and we are Dr. Choudhary is specifically working on that particular aspect, particular weeds. Now, there is a weed management, and you will see that one in different ISWS centers. There will be some kind of same weed management practices. They have merged. They have come out with the same weed management practices, and some of the ISFP there is a different weed management practices. So it is varying. It is varying from the weed flora, weed dynamics, whatever I say. Now this is the experimental field. You can see the atrazine plus topramizone tang mix. It is showing the little bit of phytotoxicity. Now atrazine plus tembotrione, that is depending upon the soils. Atrazine plus topramizone in some of the centers, in some of the ecological regions. So they are highly effective, but in some of the ecological regions, they are phytotoxic in nature. So you need to evaluate that particular combinations, ready mix combination. It is better to go for the ready mix combination rather than the tag mix because you don't know what proportion we are applying. When the ready mix combination has come, so always times you prefer the ready mix combination rather than tag mix combination. Now sorghum, the same way, cultural practices. And we don't have any herbicide which has the level claim for the soil. And what we are doing, whatever herbicide we are using into the maize, we are reducing the dose of that particular herbicide and try to control the weeds. In this particular way, sometimes when there is a kind of higher dose, means that is causing the toxicity into the sorghum. So whenever a herbicide which does not have the level claims for that particular crops, you need to evaluate it at the graded doses. Then you can recommend it. Blindly, you can't recommend this one. Now we can say that one atrazine followed by the 2,4-D different salt, and it has the different weed control efficiency. And atrazine plus mesotrione ready mix, when it is specifically higher, 875 is the recommended dose. 875 grams per hectare is the recommended dose for the maize. When it is the lower dose, weeds are not controlled properly. But when the dose were increased, that caused the phytotoxicity because it does not have the level. So that problem is there. So this is the things that weed management in Gharde. And the Gharde is a peculiar one. One of our ASFP centers, Dr. Sweta, is specifically working on this particular. There is a very limited the ASFP center who is specifically working on the Gharde. Now, when the pyroxasulfone used as a pre-emergence, there is a phytotoxicity. When the same herbicide was used as a post-emergence, it is very much effective. It is becomes selective. Non-selective when it is applied as a pre-emergence, selective when it is applied as a post-emergence. Pyroxasulfone is basically wheat, which is a herbicide which has a level claim for the wheat. You know that already Dr. Chokar has told you that it is specifically recommended for the wheat as pre-emergence one, but in the barley, it is causing the toxicity. So, and in the same way, the pulp millet, you can also different combinations you can try into the pulp millet and see that which combination is specifically working well, controlling the weights, and does not have that toxicity into the crops. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Now we'll take questions from participants. So participant, you can raise your hand.
Hurriedly,
We
hurriedly, I have completed that particular one.
Sir, sir, myself,
we have-
Maslu from Angro, sir.
Yes, yes, yes. Please.
Sir, please clarify the phytotoxicity observed in topramizole plus atrazine, any for a specific variety of maize or most of the cultivars? And another case is mesotrione plus atrazine.
Actually,
Give details, sir.
one thing is that atrazine, you shall have to be very much careful about the atrazine. Okay. Moisture is required for getting the high weight control efficiency. If there is excessive moisture, then atrazine could become phytotoxic. Even into the selective crops, means it is recommended for the maize, which is highly selective. But if there is a more moisture, then atrazine will be that. That's why I was talking about the selectivity. It is specifically attributed by the several factors. And the soil factor is the most important factors. That is the moisture levels. We need moisture to improve the efficacy. But if it is very high, means you have applied this particular atrazine plus it's a ready mix combination, and there is a rains, then it is increasing the moisture content into the soils. Then it could become phytotoxic.
So when it is applied as pre-emergence or post-emergence?
If you apply it as a early post-emergency.
Early post, not as a pre. As a pre, no problem.
If you will apply it as a pre-emergence also, if there is this huge moisture, means if you will apply the pre-emergence and there is a rains, okay, adequate rains is there, then it will be affecting the germination. And if you put leach down, then it is a different matters. But if there is a sufficient rains and it is increasing the soil moisture, then it will be affecting this particular the germinations. So you know that a lot of resistant problems is coming into this particular atrazine, and you shall have to be very much careful about handling the atrazines. The moisture and the soil factors, specifically moisture is specifically playing that important roles. Even when we are applying the atrazines into some other crops also, it does not have the level claims, it becomes phytotoxic. That is a sorghum, that is a pulp millet, and if there is a certain increase in the moisture, then it will become phytotoxic. So moisture is specifically playing an important roles in determining and attributing its selectivity property.
Okay.
Is it clear?
Sir, we have one more question. In this question and answer box, best post-emergent herbicide for the weed management in sorghum.
You shall have to go for this combination of that particular one. I told you that one. It is not like that I will be telling you that particular things with this particular dose and you will be applying that one. Because the herbicide which does not have the level claims, you need to evaluate that particular herbicides. And combinations of that one. You can go for the combinations of the herbicide with some kind of the physical method of the weed controls or the hand weeding or the mechanical method of the weed controls. That way you can combination. But whenever you will be selecting the herbicides, in that cases, you should go evaluate that the dose of the herbicides because it does not have the level claim. Whatever herbicide that is being recommended for the maize, we are using for the pulp millet and the sorghum. So based on these reductions of the dose, we are achieving the control of the weeds and the combinations of the herbicide followed by the coming on the physical or mechanical method of the weed control.
So one participant, he is asking that what is the mitigation strategy to save the crop if atrazine is applied and rain comes and phytotoxicity appears?
You have seen that one, that there is a complete yielding of that particular one, and gradually it will be dying that one. So atrazine toxicity and some kind of pendimethalin is also there. Pendimethalin 30 EC. If there is a moisture, it will become toxic. It will be causing the mortality of the emerging seedlings. So there will not be the kind of mitigation strategy. It's not, I don't know, but it is very difficult to rescue the crops once it is showing the phytotoxicity. In case of the pendimethalin 30 EC, even in pendimethalin, the capsulated formulations, if there is a high moisture, it is also showing a little bit of toxicity, but it is not like that pendimethalin 30 EC. So there is a very limited scope to rescue the crops once there is a huge phytotoxicity due to this, they increase the moisture concentration into the soils.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. So on behalf of organizer, participants, and on my own behalf, I would like to thank you for your insightful lecture. So we are grateful for the time and effort you put to share your expertise with us today. So thank you very much, sir.